So the U.S. power grid is getting attacked, and Homeland Security has been warning the American people this is going to happen and just prepare. Now, did you know that the U.S. power grid was physically attacked more than 100 times in the first 8 months of 2022? I bet you didn't know that. You know why? It's because we're only hearing about the large scale attacks. For instance, let me show you this. Look at this. These are some of the larger scale attacks. These are the ones that we've heard about. We heard about Pierce County in Washington State, where more than 14,000 people went without power right after Christmas. We heard about Maysville County in North Carolina, where 12,000 people went without power. We heard about Moore County in North Carolina, where 45,000 people went without power, some of which had no power for days. And then Love County, Oklahoma, where 1,200 people went without power because of an attack. Yeah, we're hearing about those. But what about the smaller ones? What about how in January 2020, a man rammed his car into a Las Vegas solar plant and set his car on fire? He said it was a Tesla plant and he was doing it for the future of our country. Or what about in February of 2022, where 3 people were arrested for planning an attack on a power grid? And they were going to do so with fentanyl-filled necklaces and assault rifles. And then remember on December 3rd, when 2 substations were attacked in Moore County, North Carolina. Again, 45,000 people went without power for days. Remember that one? Yeah, we all remember that one because that was the one that the media, and I for myself did it as well, where we touched on this one. It was a big one. This was a big one, right? And again, on Christmas morning, 14,000 people in Pierce County, Washington, they went without power because there were 4 different attacks on different cities here in Washington State. Yeah. Now, this list seriously goes on and on. I could show you this list of just line item. It says 108, right here, 108 attacks happened in the first 8 months. Physical attacks on our power grid. This is a real problem. But Homeland Security, they say that these attacks are not going to stop. That they are constantly hearing chatter about a possible attack on our power grid. And it doesn't matter if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, in the South, or somewhere in between, the talks are going to continue. Now, according to experts, they say that protesters have moved on beyond a sign on the side of the road or chaining themselves to buildings like they used to do back in the 70s and 80s. But now they're going to the extreme, and now they're going to put a stop to whatever they believe at the time. Like we saw a drag show, and in order to stop the drag show, there was an attack on a power grid, on a substation. Again, that's an issue. Now, the reason I bring all this stuff up is simply because we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about how you need to be prepared just in case your power does go out. And the answer is quite simple. How do you prepare? Well, you have a plan. Now, what is your plan? Well, let me tell you about my plan. First off, I do have generators, I have solar panels, and I have battery backups like this one right here. This is a Rockpals. I believe this is only a 500. This is the P500. You can get these on Amazon. They're fairly cheap, fairly inexpensive, and they work great. They're pretty small, so it's not like it's a huge item, but something like this is an incredible item to have just as a backup. And for me personally, I do a lot of work on the computer, and so I always need to have some type of power, whether it's for my iPad, for my phone, a laptop, or my main computer, which I'm shooting on right now. But this is important because I can run all that stuff off of this battery backup. Now, for me personally, I like to have something that I can use mainly for work, but also just as a precaution, because if we don't have lights, maybe I need to run a heater. And I've talked about this before. We do have multiple Mr. Buddy heaters. Highly recommend those as well, especially in colder months. But when it's hot in the summer, do I want to have a heater? No, absolutely not. I probably want a fan. Now, I don't think this is going to run an air conditioner, maybe a small one, but it could definitely run a fan, keep the air moving, and at least that would be somewhat comfortable or comforting for a little bit of time. So that's why I really like stuff like this. I'll put a link to this one down in the description box below if you want to go and check it out. Sometimes they do offer discounts, and you can get a coupon code with it. So go and look on Amazon, because again, it's a little unit, but it does pack a very powerful punch. Now, the reason why I really want to address the U.S. power grid is because I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes. I don't think Congress has the ability to address the power grid at this time, especially from a national scale. I think they have money set aside for infrastructure, and they're going to do what they can with it. But I also think they wasted a lot of their opportunities. They wasted a lot of their time, and not much is going to get done. So we're going to see what happens. One thing I can tell you, though, is these attacks, unfortunately, they're going to continue. So we need to just be well aware of that. As these attacks do continue, understand your area, your city, your county may be under fire. When I say under fire, I'm not talking about you're being physically attacked, but if someone fires upon a substation, they run into it with a vehicle, they do whatever they can to just prevent the community from getting power. Again, that's kind of an attack on you. So just be aware that these things are happening. Be prepared, be ready, because again, I don't want you to be stuck in the dark. I don't want you to be out in the cold. And again, I need you to make sure that you are feeding yourself. So something like this can run a microwave. I have tested it. It's a small microwave, but it can run a microwave, so you can at least warm up some food if you needed to. All right? But that is what we know at this time. As always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. Check this out as well. I'll put a link to that down in the description box below, and see you guys on the next one.